There's a certain type of person who looks unusually aware. They don't just walk into a room, they read it. They notice who is tense, who is faking a smile, who is pretending to be okay. And for a long time, people usually describe this in different ways. You're just very intelligent. You're just too sensitive. You're just very aware. But psychology research tells a more uncomfortable truth. Some of the habits we admire most aren't signs of intelligence at all. They're signs of thinking shaped by trauma. And here's something important. Childhood difficult or stressful experiences are surprisingly common. About 64% of adults report at least one in early life. And these early experiences can slowly shape how the brain reacts to the world. Not by making people smarter, but by training the brain to stay alert, careful, and always ready. So what looks like intelligence or deep awareness is often actually a survival pattern that looks like personality. And in this video, we're going to break down 7 everyday behaviors that look like intelligence, but are actually coping habits shaped by stress, anxiety, or long-term emotional pressure. Social withdrawal. Calling yourself a lone wolf or liking to be alone can seem proud or even intellectual. I need space to think. But avoiding people or social situations is often a result of trauma. Avoidance is actually part of PTSD symptoms. You stay away from things that remind you of past pain. In everyday life, you might skip gatherings or not share personal things just because you're private. It's easy to call that introversion, but for many people, it's protection. Social withdrawal lowers the chance of emotional triggers or judgment. It feels like independence, but often it's your nervous system trying to keep you safe. It's a coping habit, not a sign of higher intelligence. Oversensitivity to criticism or others' emotions. You might notice that you easily pick up other people's emotions, feeling their sadness or anger like it's your own, or you get upset even from small criticism. This can also come from trauma. Some people develop very strong empathy because it helped them stay safe around unsafe people. Others react strongly to criticism because in the past, negative feedback felt dangerous. We often see this as emotional intelligence, but it's actually a stress response. Your brain's mirror system makes you feel what others feel, but trauma can blur the line between understanding emotions and absorbing them. It feels like deep intuition, but it's often exhausting. It's not higher intelligence, it's a survival system working overtime. 3. Always on alert. You walk into a room and instantly feel like something is off, even when nothing is happening. No one said anything, nothing changed, but your mind is already scanning. This can look like awareness or a kind of superpower because you notice small details others miss. But in reality, constant scanning of your environment is a trauma response. In PTSD, hypervigilance, being overly alert for danger, is a known symptom. Your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, stays overactive, making you scan every face, tone, and movement. What feels like strong intuition is actually your brain staying in survival mode, treating safe situations like they might turn dangerous. This can look like intelligence, but it's really a stressful and tiring state. 4. Overthinking everything. After talking to someone, the moment doesn't really end. It repeats in your head. You replay their tone, you rethink your response, you question every pause. It feels like intelligence, like depth, but in psychology, this is called rumination, and it is not problem-solving. Repetitive negative thinking, or rumination, is strongly linked to anxiety and trauma. People with trauma often get stuck in loops of thoughts like, what do they really mean? Or did I do something wrong? This is not intelligence at work. It's a stress response. Studies show that people who overthink like this have higher risks of anxiety and depression because the mind keeps running what-if scenarios automatically. In short, overthinking is leftover survival mode, not a sign of intelligence. 5. Perfectionism and rigidity. Some people feel like they cannot act unless everything is exactly right. Not ready, not good enough, only safe when perfect. On the surface, this looks like discipline, but research shows something deeper. Perfectionism often comes from fear. People who grew up in unstable or critical environments learned early that mistakes lead to punishment, so they believe only perfect work keeps them safe. Psychologists separate healthy perfectionism from unhealthy perfectionism. The unhealthy kind is based on fear and is linked to stress and depression. Trying to be perfect may look like strong discipline, but it often comes from trauma. Instead of helping intelligence, it creates anxiety. Sex, emotional numbness, or detachment. Some people who've experienced trauma say they feel nothing at times, or they disconnect during emotional situations. Others struggle to accept compliments or feel safe with positive emotions. Psychology recognizes this as part of PTSD. The DSM-5 describes it as feeling disconnected from others and having trouble feeling positive emotions after trauma. You might think I'm just very logical or I don't get influenced easily, but often this is your brain protecting you. Emotional numbness blocks both pain and joy. It can make you feel stable, but also distant and isolated. It's not emotional superiority, it's protection from emotional overload. 7. Extreme independence. Most people don't like feeling helpless. But if someone grows up without reliable support, they learn to depend only on themselves. This extreme independence, not asking for help and trying to fix everything alone, can look like strength, but it often comes from early neglect or lack of support. Trauma research shows that many people avoid trusting others because they learned that help is not reliable, so they develop a mindset of, I have to handle everything myself. On the outside, it looks confident and capable, but inside, it's often a survival habit. It's not higher intelligence, it's self-protection. Here's what most people never realize. When you combine all of this, overthinking, hyper-awareness, perfectionism, emotional sensitivity, independence, it starts to look like intelligence. But psychology is very clear on this. These patterns are not proof of higher intelligence. They are learned responses to stress and unpredictability. Not flaws, not weakness, but survival systems that stayed active long after they were needed. The goal is not to erase these traits because they once helped you. The real question becomes, am I still living in a world that requires this level of protection? Because sometimes the mind doesn't realize the danger is gone, but the pattern is still running. And real change doesn't come from becoming less aware. It comes from learning when you don't need to stay on guard anymore. If this felt familiar, you're not the only one, and you're definitely not the only one trying to understand a mind that learned to survive before it learned to relax. If you had to pick just one of these that feels most like you, which one would it be? If this helped you understand yourself better, subscribe for more videos like this.